Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money, with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 313 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm going to talk about website usability today. And that's not readability. I covered that in the last episode. But if you mix usability with readability and just make sure the website looks good enough and no better to represent you professionally, you will have done more for yourself than 99.9% of the sites on the web. And you have an infinitely increased chance that your site will reach your goals. Now, with all that hype I just gave you about how important usability and readability are, you still have to have traffic, or none of it really matters. But the critical sin is to send tons of traffic to a site that doesn't convert them to what you want them to do. So driving traffic takes a back seat to what I'm going to cover today. And what I covered in the last episode about readability, that was 312. Now make sure you grab a copy of our automation ebook at screwthecommute.com/automate free. And this ebook has saved me millions and millions of keystrokes and allowed me to grab customers off of other people that were too slow to get back to people. I mean, if you can automate a lot of things, you can spend time taking care of customers and getting them to give you the money. Well, this book will tell you how to do it at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Grab your copy. It's free for you because we charge $27 for everybody else. So thank you for listening. Grab a copy also while you're there of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. And you'll be able to put it on your cell phone and tablet. And we have complete instructions on how to use all the fancy features so you can take us with you on the road. Now, I know everybody's in the middle of this pandemic and freaking out, but I'm not, and a lot of my students aren't, because they're able to sell things on the web or do services or do all these things that we teach in my school and in my mentor program remotely. They're not freaking out because all of a sudden they can't go to an office somewhere. And I want this for you. And if you check out my school, imtcva.org, it's a distance learning school. It's the only one of its kind in the country, probably the world, that teaches these hardcore skills that I have been living personally for 26 years now with this beautiful lifestyle business. So check it out at imtcva.org. Okie dokie, let's get into the main event. Let's get into some of the factors that you need to address to make sure your website is usable. So here are several things from the mechanical point of view. See, your website needs to be available to the public as close to 100% of the time as possible. Hosting is pretty much reliable nowadays, but there is a big difference between 98.5% uptime and 100% uptime. See, uptime is the time where someone can access your website. A good, reliable host is important for this, and I have my current recommendation for high quality and great service website hosting in the show notes. Now, bottom line here is if a visitor tries to access your site and it's not available because the host wasn't reliable, well, that's not very usable now, is it? Now, the next thing is speed of loading. I mean, Google came out several years ago and said that if your site doesn't load lightning fast, it's never going to see the light of day in their search results. And that's bad enough. But guess what? Visitors won't put up with that either. They're used to visiting perfectly optimized sites that load quickly on both a cell phone and desktop, and they just won't wait around for your site to load, so you lost them. Now, even though WordPress is the gold standard of websites and has been for years, my tech guys have seen many instances of our students' sites where they have loaded in too many plugins. I mean, we've even seen sites with 3 plugins activated that all do the same thing. Also, photos and graphics that aren't put on correctly can take a pretty good site and make the pages load, let's say, in a couple of days, or maybe you got to have a calendar to wait for it to load. Now, the next big issue is how your site works on a cell phone, tablet, or any kind of mobile device. This is called responsiveness. And way more than half of all web traffic is on these devices, and ignoring that fact can be the kiss of death for your site. Always check your site on as many devices as you can before deeming it finished. Now, one site that will help you with this is called browsershots.org. It looks at your site, and we'll have it in the show notes. It looks at your site in different browsers and different devices. And I think you'll be pretty surprised at what you see if you use this tool. But it's better that you see the bad things and fix them rather than many visitors seeing them and thinking poorly of you. Also, Google has moved to mobile first indexing, they call it. So that means they're going to use the mobile version of your site to see if you should rank high or not. So very important to be good for mobile. Now, here's another big issue that's become more important as more and more people with disabilities access the web. You can get plugins that give a sight impaired or manual dexterity impaired person. I hope those are politically correct. I'm not sure. I mean, no offense. People have trouble with accessing things and using their hands and seeing. So you have to be aware of that and make it easier for them to navigate. You can put a plugin on your site that lets them raise the font size and change the color scheme and contrast and many of other things that help disabled people use your site. And now that I've brought up the topic of navigation, because you got to make it easy for people to navigate, let me tell you the tough assignment I give my students when they are developing a website. I tell them they have 5 navigation buttons total with no drop downs on any of them, okay? And this includes, out of the 5, home, about, and contacts. So they only have 2 navigation buttons to lead people into their site. And boy, do I hear moaning and groaning about how that's impossible, that, and they go on and on about all the products and services they have. So I tell them, I don't want to hear it. Just do the exercise. Well, you know what happens? Most come back with how it forced them to really come up with the essence of their site. After that exercise, I do let them add a modest amount of additional navigation buttons or drop downs. But when they do, they really think them through instead of just dumping the kitchen sink on top of their website. I have actually reviewed sites that had over 100 places to click on the first screen above the fold. And above the fold's an old newspaper term of what was seen on the first page of the newspaper, above the fold where you would read the bottom half of the first page. Well, on the web, it's whatever can be seen on the first screen, regardless of the device. Now, you do not want to confuse people with too many choices. They will get overwhelmed and leave to an easier site to navigate. Now let me tell you about a site I had that won Best of the Web in Inc. magazine. It beat out 3 other websites that cost over $1 million each. Mine cost only $650 at the time, and nowadays it would only cost about $150. They asked the panel of CEOs that were reviewing the sites why mine won. The answer? The site was easy to navigate and they could find what they wanted fast. That's all a bunch of CEOs that hold purse strings that could give you money. That's all they cared about. All right, the next issue is consistency. You want to make sure the visitor feels comfortable, that they know where they are at all times on your site, and that you haven't done anything to make them wonder where in the heck they are. I mean, I've seen lazy website owners send the visitor with no warning to other websites that they own that look completely different. This is jarring to a visitor and frequently makes them leave. It would be like showing someone around your house, and then you open one of the doors and you walk right into Walmart. Okay, it's just, wait, where am I? I don't, that's the way they feel, and they leave because they think they might be getting scammed, or they're just confused, and it's just very jarring. If you're sending someone to a different site, make sure you tell them where they are going, and most of the time you want to put the link in what we call a new window. That way the person can surf around the site all they want, but your site is still waiting for them when they get done. Now, sometimes you don't want them coming back. Maybe you're sending them to an affiliate site and you want them to concentrate and buy the product so you get a commission. You wouldn't put the link in a new window then. All right, other things that should be consistent would be colors. Let's say like all subheadings were the same color. The justification of your text. We suggest, and I covered this in the last episode on readability, justified left, ragged right. You want that consistent. Font consistency. I mean, I see all the time when I'm reviewing sites where people copied and pasted information from different sources, and the font is different, or it's a different size, and the justification changed for no apparent reason. See, all of these things confuse people and make your site less usable. All right, now avoid distractions. And I learned this from the great Corey Rudel in 1996. He told me, take off the navigation buttons on the sales pages. And since then, I've learned if I'm really counting on a sales page to do the selling, I remove the sidebar from the blog site. See, they didn't really have blog sites when I first learned from Corey Rudel. But anyway, I remove the sidebar so all the people see is the sales message and they don't get distracted by ads or other information on the sidebar. Now, you may see sites of mine that have appeared to violate this rule. However, you got to think about where the traffic's coming from that see the page. And if I had just done a 2-hour webinar, which was the sales tool, it doesn't really matter. They're already sold before they hit the page. So, but if you're using the sales page, you want to make sure there's no distractions on it if you're using it to sell. All right, let's back to distractions a little bit. Let me tell you about a student I had years ago that was a veterinarian. He lived up north in the USA, I think it was Michigan, and he had invented an ice remover for your sidewalks that wouldn't hurt your dog's feet. Great product. So I had him write a sales letter about the product, and when he finished, he sent the site to me for review. And he was all proud of it, and he should have been. Great product, good sales letter, except, and this is a big except, right at the bottom of the sales letter, actually right near the add to cart buttons, he had pictures of emaciated dogs. I think he had Sarah McLachlan music playing. All right, I'm just kidding about that. But I mean, he was soliciting donations for the ASPCA, the animal place. I said, get that the heck off your page. And you say, well, that's pretty heartless, Tom. Hey, listen, there's no bigger supporter of dogs in need than me. None. All right. But you don't put emaciated dogs right next to your add to cart button. People will put their money to the dogs and forget about buying your stuff. The proper way to do this would have been to sell the ice melter and then on the thank you page, ask for the donations. I mean, even if they didn't buy the ice melter, you could use an exit strategy to go for the donations. Just don't put two things together like that. It's a losing strategy and total distraction. All right, it should be your goal when building a website to lead the visitor by the nose through your website, making them click on things to get them engaged. And when they do click on things, it should take them exactly to where they only see things that interest them. Let them self-select what interests them and let them go deeper into your content or sales process on their own. If you have multiple products and services, they go back to the beginning and pick their way through a different path, all about the other product or service that interests them, and then you only show them that stuff. When you do have products and services that are quite different and you only have budget for one website, my method is what I've called for years, separate them at birth, okay? Let's say you do sales and customer service. You have a big button at the top, two big buttons at the top of your homepage saying, interested in sales training, click here. Interested in customer service training, click here. And then take them down separate paths so all they see is what they originally clicked on. Okay, here's another thing that might surprise you. Don't waste your time making a testimonial page. Nobody clicks on them. They know you're just going to brag about yourself. Here's the best practice when using testimonials. Use a testimonial that right near and that supports something you have just claimed. So let's, for instance, in my public speaking training, I claim that I can teach you to sell at the back of the room. I mean, haven't been beaten in 20 years at the back of the room sales, and usually for enormous amounts of money. So I can teach you how to do this. So I might have then a testimonial from Joe that says, hey, I took Tom's back of the room selling course, and the first day out, I made $1,000 and I never made anything before. So it supports that and people will look at it. But if you just line up loads of testimonials, rarely do they get much attention. And there's other things that I have for you, other places or other episodes to talk about formatting. All right, now there's a couple resources I want to give you, and then I'm going to give you the poor man or poor person's way to check your own website usability. There's a famous book called Don't Make Me Think. Okay, I love it. I think you can still get it on Amazon, but the things are still valid. You don't want people wondering what the heck to do. You got to spoon feed them. Now, the most famous guy in the website usability arena is Jacob Nielsen. It's spelled Nielsen, and he's with the nngroup.com. Of course, it's in the show notes. And it's kind of funny because I landed on one of his old pages and it violated my readability rules from the last episode. But I'm really not ragging on him. He's dedicated his life to this and reading what he has to say. He's got books out and training and all kinds of stuff. Will absolutely benefit you. Now, there's also a free website checker link, and you can usability checker. And if you just type in usability checker, there's a bunch of them that will come up. And one thing I want you to realize about them, I put some of my sites in there, and I got some bad scores. Of course, everybody will. But some of the bad scores, you have to have enough experience to know just don't matter. Like I got a bad score for the way one of my sites looks in Internet Explorer 11 or something. Well, hardly anybody ever uses that. So who cares? I'm not going to jump through hoops and waste all my tech guys' time fixing some little mess in something that nobody uses. See? So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But we'll have that in the show notes, that link to a website checker for you. And it'll check 10 pages of your site and give you a full report on what to do. All right. Now, before I tell you about the poor man's way to check your website's usability with real people, let me tell you about my mentor program. It's at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. It's the longest running, most successful, most unique program on internet marketing and digital marketing, and wherever. I'll triple dog dare you to find anybody that has a program that can match this. 1,700 students over 20 years. Very unique features where you actually spend an immersion weekend in my home, my estate home called the Retreat Center here in Virginia Beach. Of course, we got to wait till the pandemic's done, but we actually don't let anybody come at least until 4 months of training because we don't want you deer in the headlight at the most access you'd ever have in your life to a guy like me. And we have video studio here. We teach you stuff. One of the most unique features is it's one-on-one. I don't believe in group training. The only group stuff is like you might have 5 people here during the retreat. but everything else is one-on-one, because I don't want the beginners to feel lost when I'm talking to the advanced people, and the advanced people to be bored when I'm talking to the beginners. Doesn't get anywhere for anybody. And the way the thing is structured, I don't get my big money until you make big money. And so there's no sense in me having you confused all the time, see? So the other thing that kind of is unique about it is people at my level were charging 50 or 100 grand to help you with this kind of stuff. And I thought, you know what? They're ripoffs, many of them, and they'll never help you. They'll never give you the kind of service I will. So I flipped the whole deal and made them all mad because I charge a small, relatively small entry fee compared to what they were charging. And I don't get my big money unless you make money. See, so that you know I'm not going to disappear on you. If you give a lot of those people 50 grand, you'd never see them. They disappear on you. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And it also includes a scholarship to the school I told you about earlier. And that is so powerful. It's nuts and bolts. You'll have a usable skill in a matter of months that is in high demand. Every business on earth knows they need this stuff, see? So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Give me a call. I'm very accessible. All right. Now let me get to the last part here of how you can check the usability by using real people, either friends or colleagues, anybody, but you can even pay them to do it. But here's what you'll need. You'll need a pencil or pen, an actual physical tablet of paper, not a tablet, electronic one. A video camera, could be your cell phone on a tripod or something like that, and a baseball bat. All right, here's how you do it. You sit your friend or your colleague in front of your, don't do it on a cell phone for this one. Put it on a desktop or a laptop where you can see the screen. Put them in front of it. Give them a pen and the paper tablet. And then you have them go through your website, and out loud, you want them to say what they're thinking when they are trying to get around your website. And also, you got the camera position so you can kind of see their body language and their face, kind of an angle where you see their face and the screen. And with the baseball bat, here's the deal with the baseball bat. If you have any kind of urge to say anything and say, no, just click here, or no, what I meant by that was, if you have the urge to do that, you take the baseball bat and you hit yourself in the head with it really hard and shut the heck up. No, you're not going to be there to help somebody when there's 3 o'clock in the morning looking at your website. Okay, so just shut up. Don't say a word. You are forbidden to open your freaking mouth. Let them suffer through whatever you have created. And then you'll have it recorded on video, what they were thinking. You'll have them making notes on the tablet of something they wanted to ask you after the experiment's done, and things like that. And you will not believe the things that you will hear from people when you thought it was so clear, and they're like, well, I don't really understand to this, that, and the other. And then you fix it, and then you do the thing again. And, this could last you for years and years and years. So that's the poor man's way to to do a study on your website. And make sure you get a good, solid baseball bat. I don't mind if it's wooden or metal. Okay, either one will work just fine. All right, folks, you need to make your site usable. Test it, adapt it, test it again until your testers are satisfied and you are satisfied, and then you can concentrate on driving traffic to the site, which I've covered on various other episodes. And when you do, you'll know you have given the visitors the best possible chance to navigate your site and understand what you have to offer. All right, folks, that's the story. Check out my mentor program, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and also my school at imtcva.org. And I will catch you on the next episode. See you later.